Welcome to the Wrestling Replay. I am Kato, here to give you your Monday Night Raw replay of the week. This video is running just a tad bit a little late. I normally drop it earlier, but we've been having some issues with editing and uploading. As you all know, that can suck at times. But nonetheless, we are here, and if you're hearing this right now, everything went through as planned. Alright? So, Monday Night Raw. I actually watched this twice because the first time I thought it was a little bit lackluster. I said, man, this was a really boring Raw, especially coming after watching AEW's Full Gear. But the second time I watched it, it was a lot of things I missed. A lot of little things I missed. And now I think we have some build for some more intriguing things going on later on. Let's start off with Randy versus Drew for the world title next week on Raw. All right. So, Adam Pearce came up to Randy, let Randy know, hey, you will be defending your title against Drew McIntyre next week. Now, this opens up a lot of things to possibly happen. We know in the past WWE has decided for a championship change right before Survivor Series, which changes the match in Survivor Series. So we could possibly be getting Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, which wouldn't be a bad match. Now, how can we get there? That's the question. How would this even make sense? So, there was a segment where Drew McIntyre was in the back. He was talking to Sheamus. And if you notice, Mercy was actually popped up, kind of like listening in and hearing everything that was going on with Drew and Sheamus. The Fiend was not on Raw this week. He was not on Raw, not even Bray Wyatt. No Firefly Funhouse. He was not there, but his presence was still felt. Felt in the fact that Mercy and his little minions were still popping up. Just like last week, he had someone pop up and listen to Randy what was going on with his situation. So, what I'm thinking is, next week, The Fiend will make his presence known. He will make his presence felt, and I think it will happen in that Randy Orton versus Drew match for the title. I actually think that with Randy worrying about The Miz, having someone like Drew McIntyre in front of him, and The Fiend lurking in the background, that Randy is going to lose his title on Raw, causing the match being caused by The Fiend, not interference, but maybe a distraction. Maybe the music hit, maybe the lights go out, maybe he pops up, something like that. I think that's how Randy will actually lose his title next week, which will actually allow us to get to not only Drew McIntyre and Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, but also allow us to get to Randy versus The Fiend at TLC. Now, we know that Randy and Bray Wyatt has a long history, one of the better feuds, in I believe 2017. So this would just be kind of rekindling something that WWE already knows is going to work. All right, so that would be awesome. We see him at TLC. It could be any type of match because, you know, it could be a cinematic match. It could be a no DQ. It could be a false count anywhere. It could be anything for the fact that it's at the TLC pay-per-view. If we get Drew and Roman at Survivor Series, that also leads me to believe that they already know who they want Roman to face at WrestleMania. A lot of the talk was Drew versus Roman at WrestleMania. Somehow they was going to make it work. But if they're fighting at Survivor Series, I have to believe that they have something else in store for Roman Reigns and something else in store for the Raw title as well. So speaking of The Fiend, that leads me to Alexa Bliss. There was a segment where her and Nikki was in the back, and Nikki was like, look, I know you're still in there. I know my friend is there, but you have to make a choice, either me or him. And without hesitation, Alexa Bliss said, hey, I'm going with him. And just kind of disappeared. So I believe we're going to try to get a feud going between Nikki and Bliss. Nikki trying to pull Bliss back onto the, where she was at before she got involved with The Fiend. Pull her back to the Alexa Bliss that everyone knew, that Nikki knew while before. Problem being, now Alexa Bliss with The Fiend, we have not seen in the match yet. Not like full-fledged with The Fiend, all right? So will her style change? Because Bray Wyatt, when he turns into the Fiend, he's even more aggressive. He's even more impactful in the moves he does. But Alexa Bliss is a smaller person. Now, someone like Nikki, she'll be able to pull off more impactful things. But what about when it's Shayna Baszler or Nia Jax or Charlotte? Just someone just physically bigger than her. I don't know exactly what they can do to change her in-ring performance to show that this turn or this change with me being with the Fiend has made me more aggressive, has made me more brutal. You know, my moves are more impactful. Will she use this to Abigail? We don't know. So that's something I've been really wondering for a long time. How will this change affect Alexa Bliss going forward in her matches, her in-ring style, just her entrance, everything. So I'm really excited to get to Alexa Bliss and Nikki so we can actually see what Bliss has. So we can actually see how Bliss was affected by joining the Fiend. All right. So we finally got our Raw our Raw Men's Survivor Series team complete, with Matt Riddle earning a win over Jeff Hardy and Elias in the triple threat match. Riddle will be joining the team. He's the last man on the team. And it's funny because Riddle went from having no wins on Raw to having 2 wins in one night. All right. So this Raw team on both sides, men and women, they just cannot get along. They cannot get on the same page. Luckily for the women, they have a tag team, 2 tag teams. So at least you have 2 alliances there. But on his men team, it's like no one can get along with anyone. Sheamus bro kicks Braun. Keith Lee his Sheamus. AJ his Keith Lee. Riddle just want to make peace and give everybody cool code names. So it's going to be interesting what happens in this match. So he got the first win in the triple threat match, which led to AJ bringing the whole team out, introducing everybody, trying to get everybody on the same page, trying to rally the troops. That didn't turn out well. That ended up leading to a tag team match between Keith Lee, Riddle versus Sheamus and Braun Strowman, with AJ Styles as the referee. Now, Riddle actually managed to not only get a win for his team, but he picked up the pin. So I feel like momentum is being built around Riddle, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually the surviving guy on his Raw's team if they do win. I would not be surprised if AJ is the first guy eliminated because he wants to be the captain. No one sees him as such, so I don't think anyone would help him get, break out of a pin if that was the scenario. Let's go to the Raw Women's team. The Raw Women's team is in disarray. All right, Shayna, Nia wants nothing to do with Lana on their Survivor Series team, which leads to Shayna and Lana one-on-one. Of course, Shayna wins that match, which actually leads to a match where Nia Jax is going against Asuka. Now, in this match, we have all the women on the Survivor Series team outside the ring. They're all cheering on their respective person. Shayna interferes just when Asuka is ready to put away Nia Jax with the Asuka lock. Throws Asuka out the ring. Then the big brawls happen. Everyone's going at it. Everyone's fighting. In the midst of this brawl, I noticed that Mandy Rose was escorted to the back. So I hope that she didn't get injured. And if she did, I hope it's not too serious. It's going to have her like out of action. I hope it's like maybe like a little stinger or something like that. But earlier on, Mandy and Dana was able to stop Nia from putting Lana through the table. But at the end of the day, Lana went through a table yet again. Now, I'm hearing that Lana is primed for a huge push, all right? In my eyes, she got a huge push by winning that Battle Royal to get her a title shot. She went against Asuka, and she lost against Asuka. She got tapped out, right? Where else is this push going? How much further is this push going to go? Because if it leads her right down the same path of going against Asuka, I see the same exact thing happening again. There's no way that Lana is going to be put over Asuka. That makes zero sense. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what they want to do with Lana, because at this point, her going through a table every week, some eyes is to build sympathy for Lana, to really get the crowd rallying behind her. For me, and I know other people, it's kind of comical. I enjoy her going through the table every week. It's more so funny that that's happening. So we'll see how this push actually worked for her. Now, my problem with the Survivor Series lately with the brand versus brand, whoever wins, it's brand supremacy. That's fine. That's fine. But with the draft happening and Survivor Series happening so quickly after the draft, no one is really, dedicated to their brand yet. I just got to this brand. Why would I be fighting full-fledged for this brand that I just got to? So I actually came up with a match a match in the stipulation that I think should be added to the Survivor Series team, because it's not like that old Survivor Series where these 4 guys really dislike the other 4 guys. This is more so about brand versus brand. So if we're gonna do it like that, we should have a 4 versus 4 or a 5 versus 5. Either way, the winning team goes on later that night in a Fatal 4 or Fatal 5-way match, or they could do it on their respective brand, whether it's SmackDown or Raw, a 4-on-4 Fatal 4-way or Fatal 5-way match. The winner of that match gets a title shot at the Royal Rumble. That will give guys and women some incentive to want to actually be on the Survivor Series team. It's kind of like, hey, this is my way to get to the next level, get to where I want to be. If I can help my team win, then go on and I can beat these guys that's on my team. I can go on to Royal Rumble and possibly become a world champion. That stipulation would give way more incentives for guys to actually stick together and want to work together, because they know, hey, I need you to win so that we both have an opportunity to, go on and achieve that world title that everyone does so desperately look for. Now, surprising enough to me was the match between Ricochet and Ali. Not that I didn't think these guys would put on a really good match, but I thought this was, in-ring wise, main event worth being on Raw. I understand star power wise, you got Drew McIntyre, you got Randy Orton, you got another story to tell. But this match was actually really good, and Mustafa Ali actually picked up the first win for Retribution since they became on the Raw roster. So I don't know if we're gonna say he has momentum, but I mean, a first win is pretty good. That leads me to things like Bobby Lashley and his United States title. All right, he fought against Titus O'Neil, defending his title for the first time, I believe, since Clash of Champions. He hasn't defended his title much, which brings me to the point of, you got guys that wrestle week in and week out and who are really good workers in the ring. I think that's where the United States title should be, especially on Raw. That title should be for guys that's going to defend it every week, if not every week, every 2 weeks. Guys like Riddle, Hardy, Keith Lee, Ricochet, Mustafa Ali. These guys are going to be wrestling week in and week out. So I think that's where the United States title should be. And a guy like Bobby Lashley should honestly be at the world title level. He should be looking at that world title picture, especially with MVP leading the way of the Hurt Business, being that manager, being that mouthpiece, being that voice, being that guy on the outside of the ring to ensure that his team and his guys get wins. I think that's how it should go. Now, as far as getting that title off of Bobby Lashley, I'm not sure exactly who it'll be or how it will happen, but I think that's the direction they really need to go, is move Bobby up one level and let that United States title be for those guys who are really good in-ring workers, putting on really good matches, because that title can start to main event some Raws. That title can, be something that guys really look to have, kind of like the Intercontinental title, especially Intercontinental title back in the day, where it was like, okay, if I'm the IC champ, one, I'm probably one of the best workers inside the ring, and two, it's going to propel me to get into that world title level. Now, with us being a brand split, the United States belt needs to have that same type of impact that the IC belt had, years prior. So if it has the same type of impact on Raw, putting it on guys who has that in-ring work, and that's going to really keep the fans entertained just by wrestling, that's where it needs to be. That's what I think. You guys can let me know what you think later on. But yeah, I like this Mustafa Ali match and Ricochet match. It was really, really good. That leads us into our main event of the night, which was the Miz John Morrison with Randy Orton and New Day with Drew McIntyre in a 3-on-3 tag team match. A match in which Randy Orton did not tag in once. I mean, who could blame him? You got The Miz. You're facing a guy like Drew McIntyre who wants to soften you up for next week. You got the Miz on the other side on your team, actually lurking and waiting for a chance with that Money in the Bank briefcase. And who knows where the Fiend is at this time. So Randy Orton actually never tags in and pretty much walks off on Miz and Morrison, as Morrison gets hit with a Claymore kick, and Drew McIntyre picks up that win for his team in the main event. So after the second look, I was like, okay, this is actually a pretty good show. We got some pretty good advancements. And a lot of this pretty much set up the go-home show to Survivor Series. So next week for Raw, it's going to be kind of like a mini pay-per-view in a way when you look at it. You got a world title, defense on Monday Night Raw. And that's not too often, especially nowadays. That's not too often that we get to see something like that. So this go-home show is really big. So this show set up the go-home show, and I'll be looking for the Fiend. I think he'll make his presence felt. I'll be looking for Drew to actually regain his title. I'll be looking for more advancement with Bliss and Nikki Cross. I'll be looking for the Survivor Series team to actually somehow come together and have either a kumbaya moment or a big brawl. One or the other is going to happen next week. So I'll be looking forward to that. Now, some other interesting things happened to me, which was Sheamus and Drew's segment. Sheamus talking about how him and Drew used to be together as a tag team back in the day. I wonder if they're possibly hinting to Sheamus and Drew McIntyre being a tag team maybe in the future. I think that would be a great tag team to put on Raw if you're not going to put Braun Strowman and Dabba-Kato together. A Dabba-Kato we haven't seen yet. Someone who I'm really looking forward to seeing in ring and actually seeing what his style is. I'm pretty sure they'll throw him a few squash matches, so we'll get to see what he actually has to bring to the Raw roster. I would really love them to put together Matt Riddle and Jeff Hardy. That would be awesome. You got both guys full of charisma. The fans love these guys. You got they both got the charm factor, so I think the fans will really get behind this tag team, and if they became tag team champions, it's believable. It's believable, and it's a good spot for Jeff Hardy to be in because he's not quite that world title guy anymore, and Riddle is actually kind of on his way up. So if these two team up, I think it'll be a big advancement for Riddle's career, having that tag team title with a guy like Jeff Hardy, and it'll put Jeff Hardy in a great spot where, okay, I'm not competing with those main eventers right now, but in this tag team scene, this is a perfect spot for me. Speaking of those two guys, the last guy I want to talk about is Elias. Now, I hear that they are really high on Elias backstage, which I thought Elias was going to be one of the top guys years ago when he first came into the company, but it seems he never really got over that hump. He never really broke that barrier down. So now we're being on Raw. It looks like that feud with Jeff Hardy is over. I would like to see him try to push forward, if not to that main event spot right now. It's kind of crowded. At least to fight those upper level guys. At least wrestling against those upper level guys to see how he actually does, to see the type of chemistry he has with them, because he has the look, he has the in-ring talent, he has the charisma, he has everything you're looking for. He can keep you entertained just by performing on the microphone or talking on the microphone, as well as keep you entertained in the ring. I mean, I guess he's our modern day honky tonk man, if you want to say that, but I think Elias should get a really big push. I just don't know if Raw is the place for him. I think he should have probably stayed on SmackDown, where he would have been more so one of them upper mid-level guys right now, versus Raw, where it's really crowded. It's really a lot of talent, but we'll see what they have in store for him. They really like him backstage, so hopefully we see Elias with a good push. All right. The rest of the Raw breakdown and show will be in the description below. I'll give you all the matches, the segments, who won, what happened, a full breakdown. So let me know what you guys think about this Randy versus Drew McIntyre for the title next week. Who you think is going to win? What do you think is going to happen with the feud? What do you think about Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross? I would love to hear your input. You can either drop a comment or leave me a DM on our Instagram page, The Wrestling Replay. I'll be sure to tune in. I respond back to every message, every comment. So I love to hear you guys' feedback, because this is what The Wrestling Replay is all about. Fans interacting with fans, us bouncing out opinions off of each other, and essentially booking these rosters and shows how we would like to see them booked. All right. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and smash that like button. Please subscribe and turn on your notifications. Once again, when we hit 100 subscribers, we're on the way. We're slowly trucking along. But when we hit our 100 subscribers, we'll start our monthly giveaway. There'll be a prize every single month. At that point, all you have to do to qualify is hit that like button, drop a comment. The more likes, the more comments I see from you, the more chances you give yourself to win that prize every single month. All right? I'm Kato. That was your Raw replay for the week. I'm out of here. Peace.